Arby's Hot Takes. Here's Bryan Hayes in an absolutely spectacular jacket. Bryan, we have the last Canadian team standing. That would be the Edmonton Oilers. And I hear from a lot of people when I'm out and about in downtown Toronto. You know me, I'm a man of the people. And they say, well, I'm going to cheer for the Oilers now. They say, I'm going to cheer for the Oilers now. That never happens. They never do it. They don't do it at all. In fact, when there's one lone Canadian team standing, people say they're going to cheer for them. It almost never happens. So my question for you is, where do you stand on all this, Bryan Hayes?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with this one, Jay, and I'll tell you where I stand. This is where I stand when it comes to this situation, the only Canadian team left. I'm rooting for Connor McDavid's legacy. I'm rooting for one guy, and that's Connor McDavid, because you're absolutely right. This comes up every single spring. I swear it's from like non-sports media. You know, like, I don't know who's creating this idea that people in Calgary are rooting for the Edmonton Oilers. That's not happening. People in Vancouver, you think people in Vancouver have turned around in like 72 hours and said, actually, now that I think about it, I really like those guys. They're great, and I'm totally rooting for them. Of course not. People in Toronto are well aware. Everyone hates the Leafs. No one's rooting for the Leafs if they're going for the Stanley Cup. Like, everyone's aware of that. So that's not happening, and I'm in the same position. I'm not sitting here rooting for the Edmonton Oilers. I find them compelling. It's certainly compelling when there's a Canadian team in there, and hate watching is a natural, I think, existence in sports. But for me, it's all about McDavid because of how great of a player he is and what I think has been taken away from him throughout his career, specifically on the international level. With the Olympics just simply not being available to him for a decade, it's ripped away what Sidney Crosby was warranted and was granted in 2010 when he scored the golden goal. Obviously, Gretzky and Lemieux in 87. We know what happened in 72, Bobby Orr in 76. Like, the greatest players of all time had opportunities to win the biggest tournaments on the international stage. McDavid has not had that. When it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs, he's had opportunities, but the team hasn't been good enough, and they couldn't get all the way down into the point, or to a point where they felt like, okay, we can actually win this, and I think the Oilers really can. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy against Dallas, and it won't be easy against either Florida or New York, but Connor McDavid has a chance at GOAT status. I don't know if he can reach Gretzky. I don't know if he can definitively reach Mario Lemieux, but I think he can get close to it. But it's mandatory he wins Stanley Cups for that to happen. He has to. He needs, I think, multiple Stanley Cups. I think he needs multiple Conn Smythes. I think at this point right now, Leon Draisaitl would be the guy that would win the Conn Smythe if Edmonton were to win it. But that also makes it compelling for me, Jay, is he's still got a bunch of games left, and I'm talking about McDavid, to take over here, to take that from Draisaitl, to be the man. He's the best player in the world, and he has been established that way for quite some time. He's got to win. So if he can win a Stanley Cup, that boosts his legacy. Eventually, the international hockey is coming. He will be the man for Canada. If he wins there, that will boost his legacy. And I think it's great for sports when every generation has their own guy that is chasing GOAT status. And I think Crosby did that to an extent. I don't think he reached the top. He didn't push Gretzky aside. I don't think he pushed Lemieux aside, but I think you could argue he's in the top 4, certainly top 5. But McDavid, in order for him to truly get there, he's got to win cups. So I'm not rooting for Edmonton, the Oilers, the Canadian team, the end of the Canadian drought. I am rooting for Connor McDavid's legacy.
Another thing that happened on Wednesday, Bryan, was that my Twitter blew up, and I thought, what's going on? What big news? Oh, the Jays brought back the home run jacket. That's why my Twitter blew up on Wednesday. How do you feel about the home run jacket being brought back? The prop is back for the Jays.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing this jacket. This is my equivalent, Jay, of the home run jacket, my go-to jacket. And the home run jacket is, I think, a last-ditch effort here to change the narrative for the Jays. They're throwing anything at the wall that they can. They understand where the fan base is at. They got booed off the field a couple of nights ago when they got skunked by the Chicago White Sox. They won big tonight. They finally put runs back up on the board, but they understand that they're in trouble here. And the reason they're in trouble is because they can't hit, and they can't hit for power. And when John Schneider came in for Charlie Montoya, one of the first things he did in conjunction with Ross Atkins, with Mark Shapiro, was they were going to be a serious team. They were going to pitch and defend and steal bases and try to hit for power, but ultimately they were going to be serious. And who had to go or what had to go? The casualty was the home run jacket. And as a result, I think they realized, again, it's not the jacket itself, but that wasn't an issue back then. What the jacket represented was actually playing for power, hitting for power, having fun. And when Teoscar was here, Teoscar Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Marcus Semien, who they wouldn't pay, so he left and won a World Series. Those guys who were putting the jacket on, it seemed like every at-bat, or certainly every night. And I think that's kind of what's being represented here. They understand they're in big trouble, right? And just because the jacket's back, it's not like they're going to run off 15 wins in a row. But I think this is somewhat symbolic that Schneider, Atkins, Shapiro, some of the players that were here a couple of years ago when the jacket was running hot and the team was hitting them for a ton of home runs and a ton of slugging and OPS and we're chasing 90-plus wins. Obviously, someone in that clubhouse said, let's bring it back. Let's try to bring some mojo back here. Why not? You know, we're way under 500. The division's probably gone. The Yankees and the Orioles are out. So maybe you can chase down a wild card spot. Maybe you get some mojo going. And I think it's actually going against what this organization has represented the last couple of years, where it's all been about the numbers and analytics and business-like stuff and game plans and all that kind of stuff that you have to execute. And this is just kind of an old school baseball play. Let's try to have fun. Let's try to bring something to the table that might change the mojo around here. It's worth a shot. I'm not sure it's going to change anything long term, but I'm cool with the home run jacket coming back. And I think it's fitting that Bo Bichette was the first guy to put it on tonight. He has not had a great year. He was actually hitting cleanup tonight. That's the first time all year, Jay, someone in the cleanup spot has hit a home run for the Jays tonight. And it just happened to end or culminate with him throwing the home run jacket on. So it's back. It's a last-ditch effort. They're trying, because if it continues to go south, a lot of these guys could be shipped out. The manager, the GM, the president, the players, the home run jacket. Give it a shot and see what happens.